Welcome back, guys, to the Motorsport Manager Ultimate Guides. It's been a while since I've done one, but I finally finished all the challenges. Yay! They weren't actually that bad, so hopefully I can help you out. Once you kind of get the gist of how to work through everything, you probably can handle all of them yourself. So first off, I would definitely suggest, if you're having any trouble, go into your settings, game settings, ensure that your driver AI is all the way down to the easiest, and your race strategy is on normal instead of realistic. I'm not sure exactly if you can kind of edit this stuff in certain, because I know in certain challenges they force race strategy. I couldn't change it. The Ernie's Paradise one, I couldn't change it. But you can definitely have AI driver level all the way down to easy, which I would certainly suggest. So under more general stuff, once you get into your selected challenge, if it's season long instead of one race, you'll have to build your car and stuff and all that fun stuff. You're going to want to make sure that you come over here though in your finance tab as soon as you start your challenge, and you're going to want to make sure that you change it to the cheapest setting so that you have the most money to work with throughout the season. And also, be sure to save scum a lot. I mean, some people, it takes the fun out of the game. It's really just worth it just to save you time and effort. You can load back to 3 races if you think you messed up 3 races ago and you can't really dig yourself out of a hole once you get to the end. You can load back 3 races. I actually stupidly did pre-race, pre-qualifying, and then start of race, which meant that I had 3 saves per race, plus all the auto saves. My save system got so slow because there's hundreds of saves. I maybe wouldn't suggest doing it that much. Maybe have a pre-race save. If you really have trouble with qualifying, and you might want to do a pre-qualifying save. But in general, just kind of cycle through them. Save a few saves. Like if you did almost a perfect beginning to the season, keep those. You don't need to load back before that. In general, I didn't really load back. I just didn't want to waste time. But yeah, just save scum. You don't want to waste 12 races of your time and have to start over from the beginning. It's just not a fun time. So now that we got some of the general stuff out of the way, I'm going to talk about each challenge specifically and some strategy that you can try to utilize to kind of get the best results. But you got to remember that there's variability still, which can help you and can hinder you very much. Obviously, on, I believe it's Fighting for Fifth challenge specifically, the person that you're trying to face, Oliveira, she can crash, and you just instantly you just had to finish the race because she can't beat you at that point. So it doesn't matter where you finish. So that can work in your favor. However, you can also work against you with like pit stop strategies and stuff. And if you make a mistake in the pit stop, it can really hinder you, especially on certain challenges. Can completely ruin your chances. So just remember that this is just strategies to help you in general. And it may not work out because there's still variability. It's still a simulation. So you can't predict everything, but you can certainly help it along. So starting out, we got Sprinkler Savvy. And as far as I can tell, the sprinklers turn on around lap 15 or 16. I did it a couple times, and it never changed. It stayed around 15 or 16. Whenever they turned on. Let me know if you've experienced different. Before the sprinklers turn on, you're going to want to do 2 stints, one on mediums and one on softs. You can't change the beginning strategies. So one of your drivers on mediums, one is on softs. So just kind of flip-flop that strategy, and that will get you to the sprinklers. And then after the sprinklers turn on, immediately pit for intermediates. I mean, if you have tire life, you might want to go a little bit into it because it's going to take a little bit for the weather to change over to be intermediate weather. But these tires will be the fastest once the rain starts going. However, it's going to get wet enough to change over to wets once it tells you that it's wet. you're going to want to change over to wets. That's going to be the fastest tire. People have said, like I said before, there might be variations in the sprinklers turning on. I haven't experienced, but let me know. And there's alternate strategies as well. The person farther behind might want to run on wets only. It may be quicker for you, but typically I would go with the 2-stop strategy with intermediates to wets. So moving on from Sprinkler Savvy, we got Fighting for 5th. This one is pretty easy. As long as you make the right strategy calls, you should be pretty easily to finish 5th. If you are having a ton of trouble, you could just restart until, like I said, Oliveira crashes, and then you can just finish the race and you win the challenge. So that one is just more luck than anything, if you're having trouble. It shouldn't be that hard. Up in Flames is actually one of the ones that had the hardest time with, even though it's in the rookie category. Just keep the gap as little as possible. You should end every race gaining more points than losing points on Chapman. It doesn't have to happen every race, but you should definitely minimize your losses. Vancouver, I don't know if it's me or the cars that I have. I can never finish up in the top 5 for Vancouver, no matter what I do. So just do your best. As long as you're closing the gap, it's gives you the best chance. I was lucky enough that the first race where you can't play as Wexler, I was lucky enough that Chapman didn't score any points, so I didn't lose anything on him. But this one you definitely want to save scum, as I was mentioning. Be careful, don't overload your save file. It's just keep it in a reasonable level of saves, and be sure to delete saves once you don't need them. And so yeah, it was. You can lose points on him for maybe 1 race, 2 if you're really lucky, but you're gonna want to close the gap. It's terrible trying to close up the gap. That's all I can really offer you, because each race is a variable. You just got to make the right strategy calls when they come up. So moving on to breaking point. So for the this one you got brakes that are almost in the red zone, but they're good. So you're gonna want to run shorter stints. I ran a super soft, soft, and soft strategy, and repair the brakes every stop, just to keep them in good condition. And this only took me 1 attempt, surprisingly. So you probably will have more tire wear than you need, but so you can run and push and overtake mode sometimes, but don't wear them too quickly. Try to keep them in a reasonable heat level. And you want to be careful that your teammate is also an enemy in this, so be careful how you manage his race. If need be, you can pit him at an extra time, just in case he steals the lead. You can keep him behind the person who's supposed to win. So moving on to Daddy's Boy. This one's actually pretty easy. I mean, you're the top team. Bobby Stone Jr. is not bad at all, actually. So just focus on developing the car and racing well. You can save scum, but you probably won't need to load back. Let me know if any of these, if you have trouble with, just let me know, and I will try to look into more specific strategies, but I think this is pretty easy in general. So head start for Hawkins. This one I actually I went way too hard on. I think I ended the season with almost over 500 points or some crazy amount. I think I was 200 points up on the second place. So you really do want to put in wins early, probably 1-2 for the first 4 seasons, first 4 races, or close to that. I made no parts during the season, and I still managed to win races later in the season. Just, if you're have really low difficulty and stuff, it really helps. And just put in good points during the season. Beginning 6 to 8 races, you should cushion your fall, and you will get parts offers. I didn't accept them, but I know that in other challenges, if you accept parts from other teams, you get penalized, usually by monetary value. So you're gonna want to I did it without it, but you just expect to be penalized if you take those parts. And also, save scum as you go throughout and load back if you need to. But again, I finished like 200 points up on the nearest competitor, so it shouldn't be too hard for you. Again, let me know if you need any more specific strategy to that. So moving on to Surging Absurdity. This is actually kind of hard. It was very hard to understand how the batteries worked properly, because once you get farther in the lead, you don't have any charge, and it doesn't recharge. So it's very progressive, I guess you could say. So my kind of thought process of always being in the lead is the best position for the race is not necessarily true. mainly because second place can slowly creep up onto you because they have some charge. So the use of batteries is very important. Undercuts may help because as you come back, you'll be further back down the line, so you'll get more charge, and you can utilize that charge in hybrid mode or boost mode. You definitely want to develop the car. It really helps. I had the #1 car by the end of the season, so it definitely helped me near the end. And you may also want to consider a new driver for Bags if you have the money. I didn't have the money. I spent all the money in the car. But Bags he's constantly degrading. He's pretty old, so you can get a new driver for him. But again, it's the top league, so whoever you get is going to be very expensive, and you got to buy out Bags' contract. So if you have enough money, I would focus on the car mainly, and the strategy, and save scum. I didn't load back. I might have loaded back once or twice in this one actually, but it wasn't too hard. It was pretty easy. So moving back to bottom to the top, it was really easy. I just made the right strategy calls, and I had a bit of luck. It's all about, just going longer stints and just ensuring that you kind of beat people on strategy. Typically, I believe you start on medium tires, so it's just you go longer into the stint and then you overcut them, and it works out pretty well. You got a pretty fast car, so let me know if you have issues with that, and I'll replay it and I'll look into it more if you need more help. So from Ashes, it's similar to Head Start for Hawkins. Get wins in early as you'll slip back in the field throughout the year. You do get offered an engine. I took it, and there was an additional fine, but in this one, money isn't an issue because you can't develop the car anyways. Also, late in the season or at some point, you can pick up a better driver because you got so much money. It also kind of works out well because, I got Wexler, who was part of the competition, which forced people to shift around and get new drivers. So if you get a good driver, you can take away some of the competition, and you also have a good driver. And be sure to save scum as well. This was pretty easy. Again, I think the only time I loaded back was just to kind of make sure I made the right decision with Wexler, which it was a great decision. It was a great season. So, and moving on to the All-Pro or the Superstar, whatever they're called. So, Ernie's Paradise is actually pretty interesting. This is probably the hardest challenge. Rightly so. It does give you the Motorsport Legend background, which is very helpful. It's plus 50 marketability, and people always negotiate contracts with you. That doesn't mean that they'll not reject your contract and be angry at you. I found that out the hard way. It just means that if they're even like the highest morale, they'll still negotiate contracts with you, even if they're in the World Motorsport Championship and you're in ERS. European Racing Series. So I started out by trying to see if I could kind of calculate which races had sprinklers, and I was like, oh, I'm so smart. It's like first, third, fifth. It's like every other race. So and then it was like 4 in a row, and then sometimes I'd load back and a race that didn't have sprinklers would have sprinklers. So it's legitimately random for sprinklers. But basically, if you encounter a sprinkler in a race, you'll probably encounter it again if you load back. I only loaded back once or twice, so I can't really attest to how often that happens. But every time there was a sprinkler, I loaded back and there was a sprinkler again. It happens at different times. You just really got to react. And honestly, they are the best chance for points that you'll get in the entire time in the challenge. So definitely just be prepared to make quick strategy calls. Don't be afraid to jump in and get some intermediates or wets, whatever is needed, because some of the AI are very slow to react, or they react too early. Just make the right strategy call for the right time, and I might have to do a sort of crash course in strategy calls, because I'm just telling you to make the right strategy calls. I'm not explaining how to. So let me know if you need help with that. I can make a guide on strategy calls. I really couldn't figure out the development of the car in this one. You start out third best and I ended 5th, even though I kept on upgrading all the parts that I needed to. Maybe I should have focused on the good parts and kind of let the bad parts be even worse. But definitely don't be afraid to load back, especially if you do poorly on a track and you have strong parts for. With Panther Racing Team, you have a really good acceleration gearbox. So if there's a track that focuses on acceleration and gearbox, be sure to load back if you do poorly, because that's your best chance for points. I struggled. I think I came in first with like 2 or 3 points, and that was it. And I went into that race with 16 points up, so I was hanging on by a thread. I had to load back a few times. This one is definitely the hardest. You can utilize a replacement driver to start from the front. However, I think you would have to upgrade the scouting facility to even have a chance. Because it's the World Motorsport Championship, they're the top of the top. So you have to have like a 5-star driver, a 5-star driver just to be competitive. So my mid-season switch strategy was like I'm gonna do this, but I kept on scouting and I couldn't find anyone that was available. So it would be worth it if you can find a good 5-star driver that's willing to negotiate with you, maybe a buttered up person. Maybe take some money from development. And well, the other issue there is, like, if you went to get Wexler, is that he's first in the league, so he starts from the back even if he switches over to your team. So yeah, it would work. I couldn't find a driver. Your best bet would be to look at all the reserve drivers for the teams and maybe some of the best drivers from the Asia Pacific Super Cup. It's probably not likely, but if you want to really dig into it, you might be able to find a good driver, or if you know a good driver, it would be worth it to start from the front. So this is definitely the hardest challenge. You may fall behind on points, but you should definitely try to stay ahead. There's definitely certain tracks that you're not going to do good at. Especially, I think your engine is almost the worst in the entire league, so if it's like a engine heavy, you're going to finish down in the top 10 probably. So you're going to have to really focus on your strategy calls. As long as you kind of get points where you can. I stayed in the lead the entire time, but it was like a dwindling thing. I think I fell off towards the end completely because my car went from 3rd to 5th, and I managed to claw back to the lead with 16 points. I had to load back like 2 races to get that bonus, basically. Yeah, I just barely scraped by with like 1 or 2 points. But yeah, so you definitely go into the last race with like 16 points up, because that will be they'll just make it so much easier, because it was just a bad time. The next one is Unknown Benefactor, which is actually surprisingly very easy, maybe medium. It's really not that hard. Basically, the thing that you want to do is you want to take out one driver from the top 2 teams generally. You know, if they're in first and second, great. If they're not, I would still take them out unless they're down in points. And also just be wary that sometimes the Unknown Benefactor, he can take like a lap to take out the car. So be sure that you at least have a lap or 2 to let the person crash. So this one you definitely want to save scum still. You might not need it. There are no punishments for using the ability, surprisingly. I thought, oh man, I'm going to use 2 every time, and the GM is going to find out, and they're going to find me and take away half my points or something. No. And then I thought, oh no, what if I choose the same people over and over again because like they're 1 and 2 in the championship? What if that I do that? No, they don't care. So you just use the ability to the best of its ability, and you should just take out like basically the first and the second. Like I think the 2 top rivals that you'll have are Scuderia Rossini and Panther Race Team, and so you typically want to take out Zoe Sharp and Dieter Wexler. Typically, sometimes like Panther Racing might have a 1-2 or something, but like don't. If someone ahead of you is like in a team that's in like 4th or 5th and they're in first, it's probably not going to be worth it to take them out. Just get 2nd and 3rd or whatever, and well, depending on how far down the other people are, just because if they're in 3rd or 4th, they're less of a problem, and it's better that they get the points than Panther Race Team gets 4th and 5th and stuff. So the last one is Battered and Bruised, which is a single race. So once the race starts, one driver has intermediates and one has super softs. It's very unfortunate because intermediates are the tire to be on because it's immediately starting to rain, which puts the person on super softs at a significant disadvantage. Now, yes, they can easily get out ahead because it's not raining at the very beginning. Well, it's drizzling, so it's not really intermediate weather yet, but really it's important to pit them for intermediates, which brings me to my point of how to win this challenge. It's very important. If it doesn't happen, quit and restart it. So around lap 3, a car will crash. It is very important that the VSC is called long enough that your dry tire runner can pit for intermediates with a minimum time damage, meaning that hopefully on the start-finish straight, the car crashes and you have a chance to pit and change the intermediates under the VSC and get back out. If you're in the pits and it ends, as long as there's if it's a few seconds, it's okay, but as long as you can switch the tires and you can get out under the VSC, it should be enough. But that is, if that doesn't happen, if it's just slow down in this sector, it's not going to work out. You need to have the VSC called. And the rest of the race, you just got to make the right strategy calls. I don't actually know if you can save in the middle of the race and it will load again. So if you get a VSC, you might want to experiment and save, just to try to see if you can load back to that VSC just in case it doesn't work out for you. That'd be your best bet. But I don't know. I should really, try everything before I make these guides, but So let me know if you need me to test anything or want me to do anything, and I will follow up with what you guys need me to figure out, and I will make an update video and stuff. So for the enter runner, he's gonna probably go enter, wets, enter. That should get you through the race. And then for the super soft runner, you're gonna want him to switch off the super softs to the enters, to the wets, to the enters. Now, for me, I thought I'd lost the challenge, and in fact, you should be seeing it right now. But I almost, it was the final lap whenever I got second. I was running in first the entire time with the other car, but the person in second he was in fourth on the final lap, and he passed 2 cars. So don't quit early if you think, oh, it's the last lap, I'll never make it to the end in second, and I'll just quit. Definitely make sure that this person in second's crossed the line already, because I think sometimes the AI runs out of fuel or runs out of tires, and you can just overtake them at the end. So don't give up on the challenge just because you think it's impossible. Something crazy happened in mine. So hopefully I have explained everything thoroughly for you guys. Let me know if there's anything else I can go over. If you need me to check in on anything, please let me know if you have any other experiences that are contrary to my own. I will gladly update this with new information. It's kind of like a community guide to help everyone kind of get through these challenges. I personally had no trouble. I didn't have to look up any guides or anything to get through this. It's really just kind of a combination of knowing what to expect and just knowing how to play the game well, and kind of, working on your racecraft like a real F1 driver. Let me know if there's anything I can do, and hopefully this guide was helpful for you. Thanks for watching.